Queen Alara's gauntleted hand descended upon the obsidian altar, the sanctum's eternal flame leaping higher as if in obeisance to her will. "By the rights of our ancestors," she intoned, her voice a blade of crystal authority echoing through the vaulted chamber. "I, Alara Vesh, Empress of the Sideran Imperium, bind this alliance to seal the truce between our realms." The human envoy, Captain Jonah Harlow, stands as ceremonial consort, his oath woven into our sacred compact. The assembled court, warlords in etched carapace armor, priestesses with bioluminescent veils, stirred like a nest disturbed. From her dais, Alara watched the outer procession gates grind open, admitting the human under heavy escort. He moved with unhurried precision, his plain expedition tunic a stark contrast to the Imperium's filigreed splendor, flanked by her protocol scribes who clutched data slates cataloging his every diplomatic nuance. No noble lineage, no psionic attunement, access to inner chambers denied until vetted. Captain Harlow halted at the ritual perimeter, his dark eyes scanning the chamber's geometry, the interlocking mandalas of force fields, the hovering incense drones tracing ancestral sigils. He inclined his head, not in subservience but acknowledgement, as if measuring the rite's cadence rather than cowed by it. Vizier Tharon rose from the council tier, his robes whispering like serpents, scales along his neck flaring crimson with feigned outrage. "Empress, this profanes the sanctum." His voice sliced through the murmurs amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "Ancient law, the Edict of Pure Blood, forbids interspecies unions. To cloak this human as consort mocks the gods and invites fracture among the castes. Withdraw the terms, or the outer realms will secede." Alara's jaw tightened beneath her ancestral helm, the weight of its neural links pulsing warnings of rising descent metrics. The rune's faction rippled behind him. 5 warlords, their loyalty bought with promises of traditional purity. A rival suitor waiting in the wings to claim her throne through marriage. She raised a hand, silencing the swell. "The truce holds only through this bond, Vizier. Challenge it further, and you challenge the Imperium's survival." Harlow stood unmoving as the scribes encircled him, their tendrils flicking data queries into his translator cuff. "Protocol query. Affirm your oath sequence," one droned, projecting holographic runes for him to trace. Without hesitation, he extended a finger, tracing the first sigil, a complex spiral denoting fealty, with fluid accuracy, adapting the human grip to sitter and flourish on his second try. "Oath affirmed," he said evenly, voice steady through the implant. The scribe's frills quivered. Humans were meant to fumble these neural-mapped rites, yet he synced effortlessly, as if the patterns were mere engineering schematics. Alara noted it from her vantage, an unwelcome flicker of assessment stirring. Inconveniently competent, this one. No bluster, no awestruck hesitation, just quiet adaptation, eyes already shifting to the next query, a dual-task alignment of incense rhythm and force field harmonics. He nodded to the hovering drone's pulse, syncing his breath without prompt, multitasking the rite's layers as naturally as breathing. Darun pressed, gesturing sharply. "See, he apes our ways without understanding. The edict? Enough." Alara's tone cracked like fracturing crystal, propriety straining against the vizier's opportunism. She would not let factional games unravel the truce her fleets had bled for. Then alarms shrieked from the outer gates, harsh klaxons piercing the sanctum's sanctity. Holofeeds flickered to life on the dais, twisted metal buckling under plasma charges, Sideran guards reeling from a cloaked sabotage drone, its signature matching Tharon's covert suppliers. Smoke billowed in the projections, the fragile truce's edge sharpening to a blade. "Security breach," a warlord bellowed, casts surging toward exits. Alara slammed her fist on the altar, force field snapping taut around the chamber. "Titan perimeter. Protocol scribes, escort the consort under guard." No one leaves until contained. Harlow didn't flinch amid the chaos. Instead, he pivoted toward the nearest scribe, voice cutting through the din. "Your drone signatures rewrote the secondary incense vectors to overload the intruder's shield harmonics. I've seen the pattern in your gate logs." He pointed to a flickering feed connecting the sabotage pulse to the sanctum's own ritual drones in a blink. Pattern recognition bridging alien systems without a manual. The lead scribe hesitated, frills paling, then complied. Drones whirred, incense streams lancing out to destabilize the feed's phantom intruder. The projection stabilized. Outer guards reported the drone neutralized, its casing etched with factional insurgent marks. Alara's pulse quickened beneath her armor. He had improvised from observation alone, turning ritual tools into countermeasures, human creativity layering atop Sideran precision. Darun's eyes narrowed, but she quelled him with a glare. The vizier's ploy had backfired, exposing his hand. "Empress," Darun hissed, leaning close as guards hauled him back. "This changes nothing. Proceed." and the council fractures. She straightened. Helm's flames mirroring her resolve. Wider breakdown loomed. Realms splintering without the alliance, her imperium crumbling under siege. Duty demanded she press on. All factions. The court reconvened in taut silence. Guards tripled around Harlow, who resumed his place without protest, resilience etched in his steady posture. Alara descended the dais, ancestral gauntlet extended for the binding touch, the ritual clasp sealing consort status, a mere formality for most, but politically seismic here. Her mind raced. Instinct screamed to halt, to preserve purity against this outsider's quiet threat to her court's balance. Yet duty anchored her. She clasped his hand, human skin warm and calloused against her armored palm, the neural link flaring as oaths intertwined. No revulsion sparked, instead a subtle sink, his pulse steady, sinking to her right's rhythm without effort, emotional intelligence reading the moment's gravity. Gasps rippled. Tharan recoiled, his faction murmuring of omens. But Ilara held firm, releasing only when the flame-crested gold, the compact sealed. The alliance endures, she declared, voice unyielding, dismissed. As the court dispersed under watchful eyes, Ayala lingered, watching Harlow confer quietly with a scribe. Endurance unbroken, already bonding over shared crisis resolution. Inconvenient, yes. But the Imperium needed such anchors now. Duty over instinct, the signal sent. Let the rune scheme in shadows, she would wield this human's competence as her own blade. Alara's voice cut through the chamber's fading echoes like a blade through silk. Captain Harlow. Approach. Jonah turned from the scribe, his posture unchanging, straight, unhurried, as if the weight of a dispersing court meant nothing. He crossed the polished obsidian floor, boots silent on the ritual weave, and halted precisely at the dais' edge. The junior guards flanking her throne shifted, their armored crests twitching in subtle unease. Tarun, lingering in the shadows of a pillar, watched with eyes like polished flint. She extended her gauntleted hand, the ancestral vambrace humming faintly with embedded rites. By the Codex of Binding, I accept you as ceremonial consort to the Cyteran throne. Your probationary status in this household endures until the third moon cycle proves your decorum. The words tasted of ash, protocol demanded them, yet they chafed against the memory of his hands steadying a failing rite earlier that cycle. Duty bound her, instinct recoiled. Jonah inclined his head, not a bow but a measured nod, human custom she had noted in briefings. I accept the honor, Empress, and the terms. His voice carried no tremor, no flattery, merely fact. Tharun's crest flared briefly, a warning ripple through the court remnants. Alara ignored it, withdrawing her hand. Vizier, assign his duties ceremonial oversight in the antechambers. Nothing more. As Jonah departed under escort, Alara felt the chamber's air thicken. Probationary, symbolic, yet already whispers coiled. The human's gaze had lingered too long on structural seams during the dispersal. Inconvenient competence. By midday's forge glow, Jonah knelt in the antechamber's shadowed recess, polishing a ceremonial urn with methodical strokes. The junior guard, Lyra, a fresh-hatched caste initiate with unscarred plates, paced her post nearby, her spear humming idly. Protocol confined him here. Burnish relics, align banners, embody the treaty's hollow grace. But Jonah's eyes flicked upward, toward the faint drip echoing from a ceiling grate. Lyra noticed, eyes on task. Instead, he set the urn aside with care and rose, gesturing to the grate. That drip. It's not condensation. Conduits collapsed behind it, pressure bleed from the sublevels. If it worsens, it'll flood the ritual vaults. Her crest quivered, skepticism etched in rigid lines.
Maintenance caste handles conduits. You polish.
Jonah glanced at the antechamber's isolation, no eyes but hers. They're stretched thin after the summit breach. I can shore it in 10 minutes. Tools are standard. Your utility harness has the basics. He extended a hand, palm up, patient as stone. Lyra hesitated, her plates clicking softly. Humans were envoys, not laborers, soft-fleshed diplomats from a fringe world. Yet his tone held no demand, only quiet certainty. She unclipped a vibrocellant and probe, passing them over. 5 minutes. Fail and I report deviation. He scaled the access ladder without harness, muscles coiling under plain tunic, endurance that mocked Cyteran fatigue rites. At the grate, he pried it free one-handed, multitasking, probe scanning flow while sealant nozzle hissed into the fracture. Debris rained, he blinked it away, rerouting a buckled pipe with improvised twists of spare mesh. No waste, no pause. Below, Lyra's mandibles parted in silent calculation, humans fatigued after 2 shifts. This one worked as if the labor fed him. The drip ceased. Jonah descended. Tools returned, pristine. Reinforced. Hold for weeks unless seismic. Lyra's probe confirmed it. Flow stable, better than cast specs. How? No right seal. No cast training. Field engineering. Connect patterns. Pressure here. Alloy fatigue there. Adapt. He resumed polishing, humble as if mending conduits were earnshine. Her crest softened. A rare yield. Report to no one, unless it fails. A shared nod sealed it. Pack instinct bridging casts. Word of the council petition reached Alara mid-stride through the grand hall, Tharoon at her flank like a shadow-cloaked blade.
Highness, the Conservatives muster. Lord Kresh and Suitor Varen lead, citing Air Codex precedents.
No off-world flesh taints the binding line. They demand annulment before the treaty ink dries.
She halted, armored skirts whispering against marble.
Rival suitors? Varen, Tharoon's favored with bloodlines purer than forged steel? The council amphitheater loomed ahead, crests already flaring in anticipation. They scheme while the Imperium bleeds from summit fractures. Let them speak. I will not yield the alliance to nostalgia. Tharon's voice dipped silken venom. The human inspires doubts. Lyra's report notes him tampering in antechambers.
Alara's gaze sharpened.
Tampering or utility? She pressed on, entering the amphitheater to a ripple of crests, formal obeisance cracking under factional heat. Lord Kresh rose first, tome of the Air Codex clutched like a weapon. Empress. Precedent 4-7. Alpha. Bindings voided for species incompatibility. Humanity lacks right attunement, their consort profanes the throne. Varen echoed, his plates gilded with ambition. Annul and restore purity. I stand ready. Murmurs swelled. Alara seated herself, unyielding. Precedents bend to necessity. The treaty secures our flanks. A chime interrupted. Ritual herald. The binding ceremony commenced as scheduled. Jonah summoned to flank her dais, his probationary urns aligned flawlessly. But as the right priest intoned ancestral oaths, Alara's eye caught it, a banner's alignment off by a talon width, its right thread miswoven. Protocol forbade pause, the chant must flow unbroken. Jonah shifted minutely. His hand rose, not in disruption, but precision, fingers threading the weave back, realigning in a breath. Perfect. The banner hummed true. The priest faltered. Crests across the amphitheater stiffened. Protocol screamed halt. Consorts observed, did not act. Alara's pulse quickened. Instinct urged rebuke. Duty saw the fix's flawlessness, better than priestly rote. She raised a gauntlet, voice commanding the chamber's hush. Pause the right. Consort Harlow corrects a misalignment. Resume.
Tharoon's eyes narrowed to slits beside her.
Kresh sputtered precedence anew, but the chant flowed seamless, banner radiant. Jonah resumed stance, expression serene, precision born of pattern recognition, not presumption. Lyra, posted at the rim, exchanged a glance with a peer, human hands where only decor belonged. Chaos erupted at Vesper's toll. A guard burst into the inquiry alcove where Alara reviewed petitions alone. Tharoon dismissed for council duties. Empress. Armory breach. Explosive residue. Shaped charge. Foreign alloy trace. Summit infiltrators, or, worse, she finished, rising. Suspicion crashed like a breached hull. The human's arrival timed too neatly. Treaty legitimacy teetered. Public trial would fuel annulment cries, painting Jonah as saboteur. Factions would devour the alliance. Tharoon materialized at the threshold, feigned shock rippling his crest. Public inquest, Highness. Expose the threat. No. She saw the blade, Tharoon's rivals poised to claim Varen's purity over tainted bonds. Jonah's conduit fix, his right precision, useful, not ornamental. Closed inquiry, she decreed, voice steel over silk. Forensic cast under my writ, no council tongues until truth surfaces. The treaty endures. Tharoon bowed, but his plates clenched. As you command. Though whispers grow, let them. Alara turned to the data slate, signaling Jonah's escort. Protocol fractured when useful hands appeared where only Decker was expected. She would wield them. Duty sharpening instinct into alliance. The human's competence was no threat. It was her concealed edge. Tharoon schemed in shadows, but shadows yielded to forge light. Hope flickered, grounded in resolve. This partnership might just forge the Imperium anew. Jonah's gloved fingers hovered over the filigreed nexus at the trap's core, the sustainment shaft's humid pulse thrumming against his skin like a heartbeat. Conduits snaked the walls in iridescent siderean weave, but this sabotage twisted them into a lattice of phased harmonics. Precision work meant to cascade failure through the palace's lifeblood veins. He exhaled steadily, eyes tracing the interference patterns. A human-made fractal overlay on alien crystal logic. No time for awe, just the job. Captain, murmured Engineer Kalis, one of the two Sideran tech casts flanking him, her carapace flickering with anxious heat veins.
The harmonics will shred containment if you have to up.
Got it, Jonah said, voice calm as he slotted a jury-rigged probe from his kit. A bent alloy shard and salvaged resonator synced to his wristpad. Multitasking the feeds, he adjusted for the shaft's micro-vibrations while cross-referencing the trap's signature against Imperium schematics he'd memorized en route. Aliens built for symmetry, this killer danced in chaos. He nudged the probe, inverting the cascade with a soft chime. The lattice unwound like unraveling smoke, inert. Kalis's multifaceted eyes widened, mandibles clacking in stunned rhythm. Forge, take me, that's no right. Witchcraft. How did a soft skin unravel sacred weave without right song? Her companion, Guard Sergeant Vor, vented steam from his crest plates, armor humming. The human touched the unbound flux. Unthinkable. Jonah wiped sweat from his brow, packing tools with a shrug. Just pattern matching. Seen worse on frontier rigs. Let's seal it and report. He didn't catch their stares. Humans pushed through puzzles like this daily. No heroics, just competence. Escort lights flared as they emerged into the palace's vaulted halls, the dismantled trap components cradled like contraband relics. In the council's obsidian ring, Alara felt the air thicken as Tharun's voice sliced through the ritual hum. From her throne dais, she watched the data slate feeds replay Jonah's disarming, those steady hands, the impossible inversion. Protocol demanded outrage at outsider meddling, yet curiosity coiled in her core veins, hot and insistent. Empress, Tharun intoned, his visor robe swirling like storm-forged alloy. This contaminant has profaned the sustainment sanctum. Ancient prohibitions, claws of pure flux, bar alien touch on core weaves. He unravels what our bloodlines wove over eons. Invoke the rites, expel the human before his witchcraft poisons the lineage. Murmurs rippled from the caste lords, crests flaring in agreement. Tharun's eyes gleamed, leveraging the moment to rally the purists. His rival suitor's faction waited in the wings, pureblood banners poised. Ilara's mandibles parted precisely, voice a blade of imperial frost. The trap struck first, Vizier. Sabotage within our heart veins demands answer, not expulsion. She signaled the slate. Delay the vote. Convene forensic rightmasters to dissect the remnants. Every filament, every harmonic echo. We learn before we condemn. Barun's crest dimmed fractionally, surprise venting his steam. But Empress, obey. Her gaze held his, propriety's armor cracking just enough to reveal the steel beneath. Jonah's feat wasn't decoration. It pierced shadows she hadn't mapped. Duty bound her to strength, but this edged her toward alliance. Hours later, in the seclusion of her scriptorium, Alara dismissed her attendants with a crest flick. Protocol shattered further, a private briefing, unritualized, with the human alone.
Jonah entered, still dust-grimed, components arrayed on the obsidian slab between them.
Captain Harlow, she said, carapace resonant with formality. Elucidate.
Your method defies caste lore. Speak plainly. I command it. Jonah met her multifaceted gaze without flinching, humble as frontier soil. Ma'am, it was layered sabotage. Sideran conduits overlaid with off-world fractals. Human expedition tech, I'd wager, twisted for kill shot. I mapped the interference nodes, synced a counter-resonance from scraps. Basic field improv. Your weaves are tough, resilient under stress. Just needed a nudge, off-axis. She leaned forward, heat veins pulsing brighter, fascination warring with reserve. No bluster, no superiority. He spoke as if unraveling empires were rote labor.
You adapted our sacred logic in moments.
Caste masters train cycles for lesser feats. Team effort, he replied, gesturing to the slab. Your tech spotted the flux anomalies first. I just connected dots across systems, ships, bombs, habitats. Humans juggle that young.
A faint smile.
Keeps us alive out there. Alara's core warmed, propriety yielding to connection. This was no symbol. He forged solutions from void. Your candor merits reciprocity. The Imperium values precision. You have provided it. The hall's processionals shattered the fragile accord. As Alara glided toward the armory wing, flanked by honor guard, a rival envoy, Tharun's proxy from House Vexar, blocked Jonah's path amid the throng. The Vexari's crest blazed arrogant crimson, voice booming for witnesses. Soft-skin pretender, you defile our forges with mammal tricks. Crawl back to your mud worlds. The Empress needs true blood, not this. Theatrical contaminant? Gasps vented. Cast lords halted, security servitors whirring to life. Jonah tensed but held ground, hands open. Emotional red clear. The envoy's bluster masked faction, panic. Easy, envoy. No defilement. Just fixed a leak. Alliance holds if we talk, not shout. The Vixari lunged, claw gauntlets slashing for humiliation. A minor skirmish by palace codes, but optics razor sharp. Jonah sidestepped fluidly, grabbing the wrist mid-arc, twisting with controlled leverage honed on zero-G decks. No strike, just restraint. De-escalating. As guards closed, stand down. No blood today. Servitors pinned the envoy. The hall buzzed, whispers of witchcraft restraint mingling with outrage. Security protocols strained, outsider quelling a lord's kin without right weapons. Optics fractured, alliance teetering. Ilara's crest flared, intervening with imperial thunder.
Enough! Secure the aggressor!
Captain Harlow upholds peace where provocation reigns. Her gaze locked on Jonah, resolve hardening. Tharoon lurked at the periphery, mandibles grinding, his ploy recoiling. In the armory commission's vaulted forge chamber, cast masters assembled under hammer auras, Tharoon's faction looming. Ilara ascended the right days, voice carrying like anvil song. By ancestral flux I decree, Captain Jonah Harlow assumes advisory seat on this commission. His insight pierces sabotage unseen. His hands steady our core. The Imperium endures through strength wedded wisely. Outrage vented, Tharoon's blasphemy echoed by purists. But forensic slates flickered beside her, the trap's remnants, human fractals mapped, confirming Jonah's read. Whispers shifted. He unmasked the hidden weave. Propriety cracked fully now, forging into partnership. Jonah stood quiet at her flank. Humble nod, all the thanks he needed. Shadows schemed, but this edge gleamed true. The dismantled trap, laid bare on the dais, whispered its verdict. The human was no theater. He was forged steel, concealed until swung. Alarms wailed through the throne hall like fractured crystal, holographic projections blooming across the dais to reveal the border holding of Kreshvor under siege. Raider skiffs, sleek, venomous craft from the fractious Zorath clans, darted against the bulwark's failing shields, their plasma lances carving molten scars into the ancient stone. Queen Elara Vesh rose from her seat, her ancestral armor humming with ritual charge, as the garrison commander's voice crackled over the link. My Empress, the wall generators overload in minutes. We hold but... Her gaze flicked to Jonah Harlow at her flank, the human's face calm as he scanned the projections, fingers already tracing invisible patterns in the air. Propriety be damned, the trap's remnants still littered the floor behind them, a testament to his concealed edge. Shadows schemed, yes. Tharoon's eyes gleamed from the council pit below, but this raid demanded steel, not subtlety. Jonah stepped forward without invitation, his voice steady, unhurried. Empress counter-raid. Their skiffs cluster at Vector 7-4, masking a boarding lance. Divert power from auxiliary towers to flood the gap, draw them in, then hit with micro-detonations here and here. He jabbed at the hollow, marking precise coordinates with a borrowed stylus, his plan unfolding in layered strokes. Faint retreats to bait the raiders, synchronized engineer teams to reinforce the bulwark's base, and a pincer from hidden flank batteries. No grand sweeps, just interlocking moves that turned weakness to trap. The engineers in the hall, Cider and castmasters, their chitinous limbs clicking in unease, exchanged glances. Human tactics, one muttered, mandibles twitching. Unsanctioned. The rights demand execute, Elara snapped, silencing them. Her pulse thrummed against the armor's weave. Purity laws whispered of exile for alien council, yet the projections screamed otherwise. Jonah's plan wove human ingenuity into Cideran doctrine seamlessly, predicting raider flows from patterns she'd overlooked in the heat. She nodded once. Sharp. Captain Harlow directs the shoring. Relay to Kreshvor. He inclined his head, humble as ever, and turned to the comms array, multitasking with effortless grace, barking orders to 3 engineer squads simultaneously, calibrating shield harmonics on a secondary panel, even sketching fallback demolitions on a scrap holopad. The Ciderans obeyed, their reluctance cracking under the raid's urgency. Alara watched, a flicker of warmth piercing her regal frost. This human juggled crises like breaths, where her cast masters faltered under singular focus. By dawn's pallid light, council hardliners struck. Vizier Tharoon rose in the reconvened chamber, his robes swirling like smoke, a dato dossier pulsing in his grasp. Empress, behold the truth leaked to the public feeds. Jonah Harlow, Black Ops saboteur from humanity's fringe wars, demolitions expert, shadow operative, His consort facade hides a killer trained to fracture empires. Murmurs rippled through the nobles, public holoscreens beyond the hall already aflame with fear-mongering vids. Grainy clips of Jonah amid human battlefields, explosions blooming like accusations. Tharoon's eyes locked on hers, triumphant. Purity demands exile. The treaty frays under such taint. Alara's fingers tightened on her throne's arms, the ancestral armor's runes pulsing in warning. Internal war raged. Tradition screamed to cast him out, preserve the Imperium's unblemished bloodlines. Yet Kreshvor's bulwark teetered because of it. Jonah stood silent beside her, expression neutral, no defense offered. Humble as if his record were mere footnote. Practicality won. Security over comfort. An investigation, she decreed, her tone brooking no debate. Full audit by my right guard. Leaks traced to their source. We fight raiders with facts. Not frenzy, Vizier. Tharoon bowed, but his mandibles curled in a predator smile. As you command, Empress. Hours blurred into the field relay. Alara's presence orbited Kreshvor via primary link, the court watching through shared holos as Jonah descended to the bulwark's breach. Dust-choked winds howled, raider fire stitching the air, but he moved among the engineers like a shadow in storm, armor scavenged from a fallen Siderean, tools jury-rigged from debris. Brace the keystone here. Cross-link the generators, he shouted over the din, hands blurring. Welding a fractured strut one moment, recalibrating a plasma vent the next, eyes scanning for microfractures aliens missed. A Siderean engineer staggered, venting fatigue pheromones, limbs trembling after cycles of labor. Jonah pressed on, unyielding sweat carving tracks through grime but pace unbroken, human endurance relentless as tide. When the wall groaned, keystone cracking under overload, he dove into the crawl space himself, detonating microcharges to fuse reinforcements in a cascade of sparks. The bulwark held. Raiders recoiled as garrison fire, guided by his earlier plan, shredded their lance. Lives saved, a dozen right guards pulled from rubble, their salute flickering across the links. The court beheld it live, gasps echoing. A young noble's crest flared in astonishment. He worked through the venting cycle, no pause. Even Tharoon's composure fractured, his antennae quivering as he reviewed the feeds. Researching now, Alara noted, pulling human physiological data mid-session. Propriety strained further that eve in the grand hall, victory banners half raised amid tension. Tharoon struck again, summoning Lord Kyleth, a noble suitor of pure lineage, his ritual blade gleaming. Empress, honor the old trials. This consort must prove in the circle of skill. Siderean right against alien pretender. Discredit the Black Ops shadow publicly. Kyleth stepped forward, blade humming, eyes on Jonah with ritual disdain. I challenge for the throne's flank. Human hands soil our sacred bulwarks. Jonah met Alara's gaze, a subtle nod. Ready, if commanded. But she rose, armor flaring full right light, voice thundering. Overruled. The circle tests purity of blood, not competence in crisis. Captain Harlow saved Kreshvor. Your dossiers leak venom, Vizier, but his hands forged steel. She extended her gauntlet toward Jonah, deliberate, pulling him to her side before the court. He consults tactics henceforth. Our borders demand it.
Tharoon recoiled, faction whispers dying under her glare. Kyleth sheathed his blade.
Mandibles slack in shock. Alara felt the shift, not just overruling, but choice. Competence over precedent, partnership cracking the formal shell. Jonah's hand brushed hers in brief contact, warm, steady. No arrogance, just quiet thanks mirrored in his eyes. The bulwark held firm that night, raiders scattered but shadows lengthened. Tharoon retreated to his alcove, dossiers multiplying on his console. Human resilience logs now, cross-referenced with Siderean limits. Alara glanced at Jonah, their flanks aligned. Competence gleamed true, the edge sharpened. Governor Lyrac's hologram flickered into the throne chamber. His crest feathers splayed in panic, eyes wide beneath the neural crown that linked him to his world's command, Nexus. Empress, they come, Tharoon's loyalists, cloaked in right shields, seizing the relay spires. Ancient law of abdication invoked. 3 governors fallen, and I am next unless you yield the throne to pure blood. Alara's talons tightened on the arm of her throne, the ancestral armor humming against her skin, as if sensing the fracture. The chamber's air thickened with the scent of ionized panic from her aides, but she held her gaze steady, voice a blade unsheathed. Hold the Nexus, Lyrac. Relay my decree. Any who invoke the law without my seal commits treason. Captain Jonah Harlow stood at her flank, his human frame unyielding amid the swirl of Siderean guards, eyes already scanning the tactical holos that bloomed across the chamber's vault. No fatigue marked him after the night's vigil, His fingers danced over a jury-rigged interface, pulling feeds from distant worlds.
"Disruptors are jamming their comms," he said, voice calm as polished alloy.
"I can trace the signatures. Give me access to the auxiliary grids." Tharun's voice cut in from a side alcove, his robes whispering like serpents. "Empress, heed tradition. The human's meddling profanes the right. Let the law claim its due. Purity demands it." She silenced him with a glance, her crest rising. Propriety cracked but authority held. "Access granted, Captain." "Neutralize them." Jonah nodded once, no boast, just motion. He split his attention. 3 hollows now, 1 for each compromised governorate. Juggling spectral analyses while barking coordinates to her vanguard in clipped Cedaran, the language he'd absorbed in weeks, what took her kin months. "Flank Gamma. 7. Suppress the emitters. I've got a backdoor pattern. Their shields cycle every 47 seconds. Human seconds translate to 3.2 pulses." Elara watched, pulse quickening beneath her plates. Humans endured, yes, but this, multitasking across domains, weaving engineering with tactics like it was breath. Her engineers faltered at half that load. Lyrac's feed showed Jonah's ploy unfolding. Improvised drones reprogrammed from maintenance bots, slipped through shield gaps. Explosive microcharges, fashioned from relay capacitors he'd spotted earlier, detonated in sequence, frying disruptors. Governor's nexus blinked green, one by one. "Relays restored," Jonah reported, wiping sweat that beaded but never slowed him. "Ku's command net is blind. Your forces can sweep them now." Tharun's mandibles clicked fury.
"Impossible! No Cedaran breaches phased emitters so swiftly."
Elara ignored him, signaling her high command. "Secure the sites. Bring me proofs." Hours blurred into a cascade of reports. In her private sanctum, away from prying crests, Elara pored over the captured data slates with Jonah at her side. Bribed governors. 4 confirmed, their ledgers stained with off-world credits funneled through Tharun's proxies. Her talon traced the names, rage coiling like a storm serpent. Compromised seats poison the succession. Underwrite 19, I recalibrate, purge the lines, elevate proven loyalists. Jonah leaned in, his scent, earthy, unadorned, cutting through the incense haze. Purging risks backlash. Cross-reference their allies. I've mapped the faction webs. Thin them surgically. Exile the bribe takers. Indict the enablers. Keeps your base intact. She met his eyes, those steady human depths that saw patterns her viziers chased in rote cycles. Flaw in him? Patience that bordered recklessness, trusting her court's fractures too readily. Yet it worked. Her protocols shifted. Ancient clauses bent to excise rot without shattering the edifice. Wise. You read our webs as if born to them. Patterns repeat, he said simply, no pride. Yours, ours, same, math. A chime pierced the air. Intruders in the outer halls. Elara rose, armor sealing with a resonant click, but Jonah was faster, hand on her arm guiding her behind a pillar as shadows lunged. The assassin struck from the gloom, vibro dagger gleaming, right masked face twisted in zeal. Jonah intercepted, body slamming into the blade's arc, his free arm locking the wrist while his boot swept the legs. Pain flared in his side, fabric tore, blood welled, but he held, pinning the attacker until guards crashed in, pikes humming. Elara's heart thundered, her hand lingering on his shoulder as medics swarmed. You shielded me. Without hesitation, instinct, he grunted, waving off the probes. Guards were seconds out. You're the linchpin. Tharun arrived then, feigning outrage, but his eyes darted to Jonah's wound, already clotting, the human rising as if bruised, not gashed. Whispers rippled, a soft flesh outsider enduring blade and strain where Cedaran warriors flagged. The council chamber boiled next dawn, outrage fracturing the air like thunder. Holo feeds replayed the coup's fall, governors seized, then freed by the human's gambit. Alliance supporters, frontier lords weary of isolation, rallied with crests high. The Empress's consort turned the tide. Humanity bolsters us. Hardliners bayed, Tharun at their fore. Retribution, purge the human taint that invites such chaos. Ancient law demands blood purity. No off-world consorts command our fates. Elara ascended the dais, Jonah at her right, wound bandaged but stance unbroken. Silence fell as her voice rang, regal yet laced with the night's raw edge. The coup invoked law to shatter us. It failed. Governors fell to bribes. Tharun's web, exposed. We purge the corrupt, elevate the steadfast. Murmurs swelled. Tharun's crest flattened. Empress, she overrode him. And to secure our frontiers where such shadows breed, I name Captain Jonah Harlow, Chief Liaison to the Frontier Commands. He shall oversee relays, tactics, integration. His hand guided our victory. Now it forges our future. Gasps echoed. Darden recoiled, mandibles agape. A human? In command? This risks all domestic standing, right legitimacy. Supporters cheered, crests flaring alliance. A frontier lord bowed. He breached what our best could not. Competence honors the Imperium. Elara felt the chamber's pulse shift, her own resolve steeling against the gamble. Jonah's presence at her side. Humble, unyielding. Threatened factions, yes, but bridged cracks she'd long sealed with blade alone. Propriety strained. Personal trust bloomed. She glanced at him. His nod was simple. Shared. Tharan retreated, eyes burning, but the council's divide tilted. Public outrage fueled the hardliners' cries, yet the humans' feats, adaptability in crisis, resilience unbroken, sparked questions in neutral minds. One vizier murmured to another, slate glowing with human dossiers. They endure what we ration. Patterns unprecedented. In the antechamber after, Ealara faced Jonah alone, armor's hum quieting. This elevates you, and endangers us both. Why accept? He met her gaze, faint smile cracking his fatigue. Duty. And partnership. Your Imperium strong, we make it stronger together. She inclined her crest, a rare warmth piercing formality. Shadows lengthened, but now they aligned with light. Competence gleamed, safeguards burned. Explosions rocked the palace foundations, the thunder of breaching charges echoing through the throne vault like the wrath of forgotten gods. Queen Elara Vess snapped upright from her dais, her crest flaring rigid as holographic alerts swarmed the air, external fleets clawing at the orbital perimeter, internal traders igniting the underlevels. "Vizier Tharoon," she commanded, voice a blade of ice amid the chaos. "Report." Tharoon burst through the vault doors, his robe singed, flanked by 2 legionaries whose armor bore fresh plasma scars. "Majesty, the Krell vanguard has synchronized with insurgents, council dissidents led by House Varak. They hold the Eastern Spire and Power Nexus. Your life is forfeit if we do not yield the border provinces now." His eyes flicked to Jonah Harlow, the human consort standing silent at her side, his plain expedition tunic unmarked by the fray. Dismissal lingered in Tharoon's posture, as if the off-worlder were mere ornament. Elara's mandibles clicked once, suppressing the urge to eviscerate the implication. The council's ultimatum had arrived mid-breach. Sacrifice 3 provinces to buy time, or watch the capital burn. Yielding would fracture her rule, handing Tharoon's faction the pretext to crown a pureblood successor. No, her gaze locked on Jonah, who was already crouched over a salvaged enemy drone, fingers dancing across its fractured interface. He had insisted on these redundancies during their treaty drills, human quirks she had tolerated as eccentricity. "Jonah," she said, stepping to his side. Her armored boot grinding debris, the command signature? He didn't look up, eyes narrowing as data streams flickered across his makeshift pad. Multitasking came to him like breath, one hand rerouting palace auxiliary power, the other tracing encrypted pulses from the Krell lead ship. "It's phased," he murmured, voice steady amid the distant screams. "They're piggybacking on our own relay nodes. Insurgents aren't coordinating blind. It's a looped auth code from the enemy flagship. Patterns repeating every 47 seconds. I can spoof it." Tharoon snorted, crest flattening in scorn. "Human parlor tricks? The legions falter while you play with toys?" Elara silenced him with a raised talon. Jonah's endurance had worn through their endless protocol sessions without a flinch. Now, this, deciphering alien encryption faster than her cryptomancers, connecting the invasion's digital veins to the uprising's blades. She felt the first crack in her formality, a reluctant pull toward his calm. "Explain your counterstrike." "Secure the nodes first," Jonah said, rising with the drone's core in hand. 3 key points: Eastern Spire relay, underlevel generators, and the Vault Shield emitter here. Jam their loop with this spoofed signal, then we hit the Krell command ship from inside their own net. Your legions hold the flanks, I'll lead the breach teams. The vault shuddered again, a traitor squad blasting through the outer antechamber. Eilara's ancestral armor hummed to life, its runes glowing as she donned the helm. Duty bound her to tradition, yet politics demanded survival. The council's missive burned in her mind. Sacrifice the provinces, preserve purity. But Jonah's plan wove her legions into its core, no human savior myth. She inclined her crest toward him, the warmth from moments before now forged in fire. "We bind fates. Legions to me." Tharoon's mandibles parted in protest. "Majesty, the ultimatum." "Rejected," she snapped, striding past him. "Signal the council. The Imperium yields nothing. Transmit Jonah's node map to all cohort leads."
Human, you execute. I command the field.
They plunged into the breach together, Jonah at her right flank as if he had marched Sideran rights all his life. Alarms wailed, insurgents swarmed the corridors, their blades clashing against loyalist spears. Alara's voice boomed through her helm's vox, rallying the First Legion. Hold the spire, for the crest eternal. Her warriors surged, their ritual formations unbreakable, plasma lances carving through traitors with disciplined fury. Jonah multitasked the assault, directing 2 breach squads via wristcom, while adapting to a collapsing bulkhead, rigging a makeshift charge from scavenged Krell shards. Node 1 spoofed. Insurgents blind in 10, he called, dodging a flung grenade without breaking stride. His adaptability unnerved her. Sideran's drilled one path to victory, yet he improvised across domains, tactics, engineering, even reading the insurgents' hesitant strikes, as fear of reprisal. A Krell boarding pod ruptured the eastern wall, hulking invaders spilling forth with vibroaxes howling. Alara met them head-on, her armor's edge shearing a foe's limb as she bellowed orders. Jonah flanked left, pattern recognition spotting the pod's weak seam. A precise demolition pulse from his pack felled 3 in a cascade. Together they claimed the spire relay, his signal jam rippling outward like a venom through veins. Underlevels next. Smoke choked the air, generators flickering under sabotage. Jonah's team multitasked repairs, humans and Siderans alike, his quiet instructions bridging their rigid hierarchies. Pattern the overloads, reroute like this. A legionary paused, crest twitching in awe. How do you see it so swiftly, off-worlder? Jonah shrugged, humble as ever. Just connecting dots. Your rights give us the muscle. Alara watched from the catwalk, commanding reserves against a fresh uprising wave. His resilience shone, hours without pause, optimism uncracked by near misses. Tharun's forces wavered nearby, their traditional phalanxes crumbling against Krell heavies, yet where Jonah integrated them, cohesion held. Cultural friction sparked. A Sideran snarled at his irregular maneuvers, but Alara quelled it. He learns our steel, we his sight. Voltimeter last, Krell elites battered the doors, Tharun's loyal guards suspiciously absent. Jonah deciphered their final command burst mid-charge, spoofing it to turn their drones against them. Alara's legions poured in, her blade felling the Krell commander as Jonah sealed the node. Orbital feeds confirmed, enemy flagship's net collapsed, Sideran interceptors shredding it in coordinated fury. Silence fell, broken only by cooling metal and labored breaths. Victory clung to them like sweat. Alara sheathed her sword, crest settling as she met Jonah's gaze. His tunic was torn, face smudged, but eyes held that unassuming steadiness. Competence, not conquest. The Grand Council chamber reconvened amid the wreckage, holographic thrones flickering. Tharun stood foremost, his faction arrayed, demanding audit. The provinces were the price. This human's gambit risked all. Alara ascended the dais, Jonah at her side. No consort's shadow but partner in frame. She activated the battle logs, Jonah's signature trace, her legion orders, the synced counterstrike. Witness collaboration. The human deciphered what our vaults concealed, my legions executed without flaw. External threat broken. Internal purged. House Varrock's heads adorned the spires. Murmurs rippled. A counselor queried. His role, Majesty?
Symbol or substance? Substance, she declared, voice regal yet laced with the crack of revelation. Formal propriety strained. Personal connection demanded truth.
Captain Jonah Harlow, elevated to legate of strategic nodes, equal in office, bound by treaty and trial. Tharun recoiled. Succession protocols. Purity. Reshaped. Alara cut in, accepting the political storm. Factions would splinter, rivals scheme, but the Imperium endured stronger. She turned to Jonah publicly, extending her talon in the ancient rite, consort's vow, now equals pact. You are my political consort. Share my throne, my burdens. His hand clasped hers, firm, unarrogant, honored, Majesty. Together. Council assent came grudging, then resolute, alien amazement etching their crests. Tharun bowed low, eyes narrowed but yielding. Alara felt the shift, duty's chains lightened by alliance. She was born to rule, and learned that true power was finding an equal. Shadows yielded fully to light, the Imperium's dawn burned brighter.